Coming up, we're going to talk about the continued downward spiral of dating and where people are getting off for their jollies. Is it OnlyFans? Is it unwanted celibacy, mate poaching, or sex dolls? That's coming up on this full-length edition of Depraved and Debaucherous. Welcome to the show. This is King of Podcasts. Thanks for listening in. Subscribe to the show where you find it. First of all, first place you go to every time to find this show, ddradio.live, ddradio.live, D as in praise, D as in debaucherous, ddradio.live. You can subscribe to the show, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, all the places you find the podcasts, and Google as well, Google Podcasts, and of course on YouTube, where you can find the video and audio versions of the program initially at ddradio.live. And from there, you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can never miss an episode. And we do 3 episodes a week, too many episodes, Mondays and Fridays on the audio side, Mondays and Tuesdays on the video side. And of course, we do this episode that's Tuesday going into Wednesday. That's your regular full-length show. Let's get into it. A new study has come out talking about the sexual attitudes and characteristics of OnlyFans users. And before I even get to this story, I would not be surprised if it's more like pornography. Social media, and then the accessibility of so much free and available pornography. Let's really break it down. It has sexualized women more than ever. And at the same time, men have become much more desensitized, a little more feminized, not as masculine. And they've been basically manipulated through the internet of other things when it comes to sexuality. That's not natural. That's not normal. And nobody's really able to go and satisfy that. Like the stuff you're seeing in pornography, you know, it just cannot be replicated in real life. You could try if you want to, and I'm sure there's people out there that want to try, but it doesn't work that way. And that's what the problem is. So, of course, you want to see people that are, when you look at social media, and you look at OnlyFans in particular, and see how much things have gone on, and you see the people that are, you feel like are completely, you feel like the girls and guys you're seeing on there that you don't think you could ever find in your backyard, or if you drove to a different city or wherever you are, whatever your neck of the woods you are. You have to realize, we talked about this last week, that social media has warped our sense of how people really are around us and the kind of beautiful, interesting, fascinating people we have around us too. Because we see fascinating, interesting people that are not on our television sets anymore. We're seeing everyday people that we can relate to, but they can be in different parts of the world. For some of you that might like a Charlie D'Amelio or a Kabi Lame or whatever, these different people that are out there. Or you might like people that are, you know, movie buffs, or they're beauty content creators, beauty influencers, and various influencers out there that you think are cool as hell, and you wish you could be, you wish you were not fear of missing out what was going on with them. I understand that part. And that's happening a lot. More than you imagine. And so I'm sure there are people that are on OnlyFans. By the way, OnlyFans is not the easiest place to look for people. When you look for OnlyFans, it's not like you're going into the website and you're looking through a catalog of different people you can go after. Like, that's one thing that you could say about OnlyFans. It's not that easy to go and look up creators. You do realize that, right? You only know about them if you actually go across and you start looking for people. Do you understand? You get suggestions, you might get expired subscriptions, you might get other things that are going on. But the truth is, it's difficult. Very difficult. You see what I'm saying? And so when you're thinking about who's out there and who you're trying to look up, it's difficult to find anybody that you like. Like if you're looking for names out there, you want to be fans of somebody, sure, you might be able to find people and you might get some recommendations, but it's not like other places where you can go looking up people and then you're just like all over the place looking across. There's no real search. Like it's really difficult to find. And you can do a search for users and posts, but if you don't know who the people are, if they're not promoting themselves, how are you going to know? So with OnlyFans, it's not like you're looking through a directory of women or men to go and look up. The idea is that you're going to find somebody outside of OnlyFans and they get drawn into their OnlyFans. That's how it works. That's what's going to happen. And the easy thought of, oh, well, $20, $30 a month, I can subscribe to her and I'll get all her content. I can talk to her. I can do all these different things. This fantasy is brought to life. And it's this kind of thing that the internet has created that has made things worse for dating. That's why I bring this whole point up. So, Sideposts wrote a story about the sexual attitudes and characteristics of OnlyFans users. I've been waiting for something like this, especially for the last 2 years when you had everybody for the pandemic jump on the OnlyFans and get on here. This platform has been relatively quickly becoming popular. In no time, more than 100 million registered users. But little is known about the characteristics of those users. We already know that many people have talked about how people that are using OnlyFans, a lot of guys would be considered simps for what they're doing on here. And it's, changed over time. Originally might have been you went to somebody's Facebook, or you might go to some private Snapchat, or Periscope. Remember Periscope back in the day? Periscope a few years ago would lure people into private Snapchats or into different ways. And then somebody came up with the idea of OnlyFans. And so an assistant professor at Cleveland State University, she's also owner of the SDAL Consultation Educational Services and the Brave Space Institute. This is study author Stacy Diane Aranez Litam. She wanted to figure out user demographics and sexual attitudes. So, for the study, they surveyed 718 U.S. adult participants between 18 and 71 years old, and the average age of the group was 29 years old. 348 of these users were actually OnlyFans users. They were subscribers. 219 male, 129 female. Participants asked to complete a questionnaire on their sexual attitudes when they were asked to the extent they agree with statements to permissiveness, birth control, communion. And they were asked if sex is a very important part of life, sex is primarily a bodily function like eating, or it's best when you let yourself go and focus on your own pleasure. So what she learned was that individuals who create and access SEM content, sexually explicit material, not search engine marketing, but those that are making this content are not significantly different than those who do not. Users and non-users endorse similar sexual attitudes. It's important, she says, because it directly challenges stigmatizing attitudes that portray sexually explicit material as users as deviant, hypersexual, and sexually permissive. The simping. The easily, girls that want to just whack off at any given time. That they're over-ejaculating. That's the idea. She says that when it comes to sexual attitudes, we're all more alike than different. And that the users were predominantly white, married men, identified as heterosexual or bisexual/pansexual. And then she wants to also do experiences of OnlyFans creators. And so she goes along and says that sexually explicit material can be accessed for a variety of reasons, to enhance masturbation and pleasure, and to reduce boredom. We can never know why people access this, but it's something that needs to be said. That they looked at people that are very sexual are still going to go on OnlyFans anyway, whether or not. The same people that are going for pornography are the same people going for OnlyFans. There's not much of a difference. But what's happening is you're getting worshiping. You're basically worshiping the girls or guys you're watching on it, mostly girls. And when you think about if you wanted to go and find out who the creators are, is there even a spot right now that anybody's created where you can really know who is what? Like, has that been created yet? there's a couple of sites that have done it that do search OnlyFans accounts. Fan Metrics, OnlyFinder, OnlyFans Creators Directory, and Hubite. Then there's also OnlySearch. I didn't realize there were so many. So there's actually a market of people that want to look for OnlyFans. And you just do a search, and there you go. It's crazy, but it's true. And you could use keywords. You could find things out that can work that way. And so when you look at these kind of things, it's like, wow. Of course, the internet's going to find a way to make it easy for you to go and to do something depraved and debaucherous. Of course you can. But there you go. There's one site I'm looking at, Fans Metrics, that shows the most popular accounts in the U.S. And you see the women and girls that are on these accounts, and you can find everything that's going on here and what they're doing. When you look, it's like, wow, there's just so much here. Plus, they have offered parts of accounts where you can actually promote to 1.8 million users. Everybody's making a racket off of this, but the truth is, when you think about it, and you look at the categories that are put up here, if you're looking for, in this particular thing, they say about amateur creators, MILFs, big tits, famous, or TikTok girls on OnlyFans. Because TikTok is obviously getting a lot of people over to OnlyFans pretty quickly. And that's where they're going, right? More than not, people are all coming over here and thinking, well, I want to get on here and see what I can find. And it's much more prominent than you think. And I get it. There's a lot of beautiful women on these sites. And you go on here and you're saying, well, let me see what I can do. This particular site here actually shows you pricing and all the stuff you can get with them. And then you just have to hope that the woman that you're trying to, or the guy that you're interested in, and that you want to look at, then you have to hope that you're not going to see many previews. You're not going to see many things that will tease you to do anything with the looking at them. You're just going to have to hope that maybe you'll find something that you'll like on here that'll be interesting. But it's a lot there. There's a whole lot to be said. So this is one place that people will go to abandon dating altogether. Next, let's talk about unwanted celibacy. Now, this is where you have guys that might be considered incels, involuntarily celibate. Now, there are those that are doing this in a healthy fashion, that they rather work on their careers, work on their themselves, personalize themselves, make themselves better. But then there's a part where there are guys that where unwanted celibacy is linked to hostility towards women, sexual objectification of women, and endorsing rape myths. So there is a side where I'm talking about the toxic, narcissistic, manipulative side that are certain guys that are involuntary celibate, showing higher levels of misogyny and hostility towards men, or towards women, excuse me. Now, in this story from SciPost, they define incel, cited as a reason for violence against women and given rise to online spaces where incels commiserate and share sexist and anti-feminist views, and also tend to experience reduced psychological well-being, a greater tendency for interpersonal victimhood. It's an experience that occurs in both in and outside the incel community. There's a study that was sought to explore the relationship between unwanted celibacy, and misogyny in both self-proclaimed and non-incels. So they went and got 348 men recruited, 156 classified as incels, 192 non-incels, predominantly heterosexual and single. They completed measures on incel status, unwanted celibacy, big five personality traits, misogynistic attitudes, hostility towards women, sexual objectification, rape myths, and rape proclivity. So this is the results of the study. I'm just the messenger. Don't bash me if you feel like there's a lot of red pill material out there that are talking about incels, and this makes incels put in a negative light. Well, it does portray in a negative light. And I'm not here to determine who's, the majority and who's not, and who hits here. But we have to understand there are some bad apples in this bunch. because they've been hurt or they have been raised in a way where they are not emotionally available and they don't have good mental health. And they're going to do things where once they get a chance to a girl, that they get to a girl, some of these men that agreed with statements here, they'll say that, for instance, they'll agree to the fact of, I want to date, but nobody wants to date me. And those same people that would say that would then say, generally, is it safer not to trust women? An attractive woman should expect sexual advances and should learn how to handle them. And it's a biological necessity for men to release sexual pressure from time to time. So it's basically saying that guys are entitled to women and having them for sexual conquest without any repercussions, or really understanding that men need to have their release. They need to be men, and they're going to do what they're going to do. When they talk about unwanted celibacy, it was not correlated with rape proclivity. People high on neuroticism showed higher rates of unwanted celibacy. God bless, I keep doing that. The other participants showed greater openness, extroversion, conscientiousness, and lower rates of unwanted celibacy. So the same people that might be celibate and they're not as vocal about being unwanted, that they're not dealing with those much deeper, darker issues of rape proclivity, rape myths, and various issues like that. So they ultimately said, the researchers here, that there's a theoretical implication that failure to satisfy a fundamental motive of human existence, the motive to acquire a romantic or sexual partner, contributes to individual support for multiple forms of sexist and misogynistic views. But I will come in with this. Sure, men might discover that some of the things they were taught, whether it's through women, single women, or something else, that they might try to correct the pattern and try to find themselves to be becoming more masculine and more alpha, for good or bad. Because the idea is that there are those guys that might be unwanted celibates by choice because of the fact that they are trying to improve themselves. And by self-improvement, which is very much the red pill method, that because you improve yourself physically, financially, mentally, etc., that the fruits of the labor will be rewarded with women that will want to have sex with you, because they'll want to be around a man who is confident, masculine, and successful, and has a direction in life, or he has made something of himself. Those are traits that are very attractive to women. That's pretty obvious. And then the men that are vocal about not being able to find romance or not being able to find a girlfriend, if there's a lot of expression of that, then there's more likely a chance that those men that are not only upset and sad they can't find a girlfriend, but they also start having bad thoughts and start feeling like they start having traits that say, well, if we want to have sex with a woman, they're just going to have to take it. And that hotter, younger women are just going to have to accept the fact that guys are going to want to have sex with them. They're just going to have to tolerate it. And that's not healthy either. That's not healthy at all. So there's different areas of the unwanted celibacy frame that we talk about as well. The next portion we can talk about is mate poaching, which is something that's being done where if women are unhappy with who they're with, that they might try to poach somebody else that might be desirable because they're with somebody in a committed relationship. And that can happen too. Right? So let's bring that part up. The aftermath of mate poaching. Another story that comes in here and makes an important point. How can the target of flirting affect your current relationship? Now, I brought this up a few weeks ago in the program, and I think it's important to bring up here one more time. That people who enter monogamous relationships typically hope to maintain sexual or romantic exclusivity. But we do know that there have been many times where there are mate poaching attempts, that their current partner is less appealing while perceiving alternative partners more appealing than participants in a controlled condition. And we do know that men and women do participate in mate poaching, because they did a study among men and women that were in this. And they talked about how people with more positive, spontaneous attitudes toward their partner exhibit faster responses to positive adjectives and slower responses to negative adjectives in the task. When there's somebody that you feel like you want to have yourself, this is something that happens more with women. That with women, if they're able to go and take somebody that they feel like the other woman, because out of jealousy or spite, why is this woman getting him when he should be with me? And flirtation really works when it's a woman trying to attract a man, not the other way around. It's much more effective when it's a woman. So this also contributes to the downfall of dating as a whole. And finally, I want to talk about one more subject: sex dolls. Researchers are now astonished by the number of individuals who consider sex dolls to be their ideal romantic partner. Now, I've brought this story up before. I have talked about where we've had virtual dating. You know about that, right? So back in November 2020, I talked about, in my When I'm Not Podcasting series, there were influencers going viral, virtual influencers going viral. And that there were people that were interested in said virtual influencers. And I said that back in, what was this? Yeah, I said it was in 2020. November 2020, right before Thanksgiving. And then another thing that was going on was virtual flirting and cheating. People were willing to do that at an all-time high. And at that time, when I pulled that story up, I was saying to myself, what is going on here? Why would people think this is a good idea? That people were engaging in virtual sex in ways with people whom they wouldn't consider. And people were actually having virtual sex. Feeling attracted to someone that was not even next to you, not even in front of you. That this could be allowed. And there were women that were willing to go into this themselves. It's crazy, isn't it? But it's true. In this story, there are men that have female sex dolls. They consider the object to be their ideal romantic partner. It's published, research was published in the Journal of Sex Research, and that people who attribute more human-like characteristics to their sex dolls tend to have more hostile attitudes towards women. They did a study with 217 doll users. Average age, 43 years old. Ages range from 18 years old with a sex doll. 18 to 77 years old. 91% male. 2.3% women. 2.3% non-binary. 2% other. And more than 2/3 identified as heterosexual. Half of the participants reported they considered a doll as the ideal partner for me, and I felt emotionally attached to it. And they served as a temporary substitute for a human partner. And others used their dolls merely as sex toys. They found out the relationship with a doll, they were more likely to agree with statements such as, "I'm in love with my doll. Having a sex doll improved my mental health, and I use dolls because I find the bodies of my potential human sexual partners less attractive." And they were also more likely to be single or divorced. The researchers were astonished. And they found that anthropomorphization was weakly linked to the objectification of women and hostility towards women. Those who perceived their doll as having more human-like traits were slightly more likely to agree with statements such as, "The first thing I notice about a woman is her body. And I feel that many times women flirt with men just to tease them or hurt them. 70% of these doll users reported they did not change their image of women. Quote, I respect women and see no dolls any different than a large flashlight or a masturbator. And 6% report a positive change, 2.3% negative change. 10% reported becoming less interested in women. This is sad. And we know there are certain countries that are a little more susceptible to sex dolls, but this actually is something here. This is sad. And there's a case out here for this. Is this really what we're going to allow people to go into? What we really want to see that's going to happen? Is this what we want to have everything going to? Where people are willing to go ahead and just go to different routes and just say, oh, okay. And they're just thinking that this is normal. OnlyFans is normal. No, it's not. Maid poaching is normal. No, it's not. Unwanted celibacy is normal. No, it's not. But it's acceptable behavior. People are willing to go ahead and let this go. Just let it slide. And this is some of the extremes that people are doing right now while they are leaving the dating scene altogether. No wonder I see so many people on my TikTok feed complaining about dating, how many girls that are crying, upset, sad because they can't find the date. Or when they found the date, it was somebody that was just cringe and bad and horrible, damaged goods. People are getting damaged emotionally by what's going on here. This has to stop. If there's a way to stop this, there has to be a way. And we're not even talking about the guys that go out and look for women overseas, the passport boys. I didn't even talk about that yet. But I will down the line in an upcoming episode. I'm sure I'm going to have something to talk about with that. But these options are real. And this is where we've talked about maybe women need to start shooting their shots. Maybe they need to be the initiators of contact and communication. If it's not working, the old traditional way is not working, then let's flip the script. And there are women encouraging women to shoot their shot at the men that they want to be with. Now, this will not solve the problem altogether because we know there are particular guys that some women are going to go and try to attract and try to go after and chase. They'll try the highest echelon. Because the average men and women are still going to be dismissive. They're going to be denied. They're going to be neglected. And this is the part where I have this show, this platform, to talk to everyone out there. We know the beautiful people are going to have their own way. And I'm not judging them either. And I would never tell anybody that you can't have a chance to find them either. So that's what happens. But hey, I'm not going to judge anyone if they want to be unwanted and celibate. They want to poach somebody else's mate. If they want to get off to a girl or guy on OnlyFans, or if they want to have their sex doll. Because at the end of the day, we are all depraved and debaucherous.